Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to another episode of Naked Sunday. I'm your host, Caleb Nelson, and I have the lovely Catherine Kontos on the podcast with me today. Catherine.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here today, speaking to you from an authentic, genuine place.
Well, you're
And
you're pretty rad. You're pretty rad already. You're just like, as you're talking about your book and the thing, I'm like, oh, she's here for it. All right, we're just right in it right now. I love it. I
right
love
away.
it. I love this. I don't know if you listen to any of the episodes, but as much as I said before, and I say this all the time, so if people eventually will start knowing exactly what the thing is, maybe or maybe not. The only structure I have to this whole episode podcast thing is I like to start every episode with why I appreciate my guest. And I do this because I think this is a good place for us to start as humanity on a journey towards what I believe would be world peace. Tell each other why we love each other, things start off on a good foot. So,
Yeah.
with that in mind, a couple things. I love as you're talking about, like when we hopped on today, I'm just growing right now. I'm going through this growth phase. I love anybody who's ready to just go for it, go all in on like their dreams, their life, the things that they truly believe in. Because what are we doing otherwise? The stale, stagnant thing doesn't do it for me. But
Yeah.
that comes with the entrepreneurial journey of you also become very vulnerable, become very real, and you just, as we're saying right now, I wrote a book. I was very naked on the page, like this is real, this is a part of me, and I appreciate authenticity because there's no other way for us to build any meaningful relationship if we don't know or see that person for who they truly are. If they don't allow themselves to be out there, how else are we going to build any real love, any real connection, make any meaningful impact in this world if you don't show up that way? So that's
Yeah.
what stuck out for me, and I wanted to say I appreciate you for that.
Thank you. And I appreciate you for that because, for me, it's actually very hard for me not to deep dive into conversations pretty fast. They're like, I wasn't expecting that. And they're like, just like saying, divulging all these things. They're like, I didn't expect to say all that in like the first 30 minutes that I met you. And I'm like, I so appreciate that because it builds this level of trust and kinship and all of that stuff. And so quickly, and you impact the person and vice versa. So why not? Why not?
Why not is a great
Yeah.
place. That might be the title of the episode today. Why not?
Not.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, because why not? Otherwise, you're never going to know where that relationship could go if you're not going to be like, here's something. I'm so tired of the conversation around the damn weather. Unless it's about
Right.
like your philosophies on why the weather works this way, and and then there's some depth and introspection around that. But like, I can look out the window. I could find out if it's sunny or it's raining or not right now. I don't care.
I have a hard time with small talk. I really do. That's why, like, when there's, as a business person, I've been to network meetings, and most of them, I absolutely feel so out of my skin, uncomfortable. I just hate them. But when there's other networks where I'm involved in, and the reason is because those deep divin, is that a word? Conversations happen really quickly. And I just love that because before I can do business with you, I got to know who I'm dealing with, right? Who are you? And I want you to know me because if we have that kind of a connection, then the business part will be so much easier and seamless, and it'll flow versus forcing something when there's a clash of values, or I don't know, whatever it may be. There might be just something, a vibe that's off. So getting to know people is important to me in business. It's all about relationships, especially in the business that I'm in. It's extremely important to know your clients, your colleagues. Even when I interview people, I've been doing interviews the past 2 days, and I ask them, what's your goal in the next 5 years? I give you $5 million today. What would you want to be doing in 5 years, ideally? Like, and they just tell me their dreams, and I'm like, well, okay, great, because it shows to me they have drive, they have purpose. And that's so important. And I want to help them achieve that. Like whoever I hire, I don't hire them just to fill a space. I hire them to achieve their dreams. So if I could have a hand in that, give them a career in something, then I want to do that. I want to actually see them grow. And that's the same thing with anything, like any partnerships, anybody. If I could have a hand in helping you grow, then I've done my job. So
I'm just pausing for effect for anybody who's listening to that.
pause. Yeah.
Make it a fire way to start this podcast. Thank you. Especially when you start getting to places where you're investing bigger or larger sums of money and you don't know the person, that it just baffles me, because it is a relationship, and you'd assume the higher the investment, the deeper the relationship would go. It doesn't make sense to me why people won't take the extra, and then they're surprised when it blows up in their face a year down the line, a month down the line, whenever.
Yeah, and that's because they're very tempted by the money, and they don't look. I've been there. I've been there. I've been in a situation. Well, it wasn't about the money. My issue was when this partnership failed, was I was so focused on the dream of what I wanted that I overlooked details that I shouldn't have, because the dream was so big that I'm like, it can't go wrong. I don't care. I'll figure it all out. And I just went like head in, like dove into that, and I crashed really fast with that because I didn't look at the details of the dream. I didn't want to hear, when like you're in a relationship and the rose-colored glasses come on, and the red flags were there, but you just didn't choose to look at them because you fell in love with the person. And then it was too late. You didn't want to go backwards. You didn't want to see what you knew was there. 10 years later, 5 years later, fast forward, you look back and you say, I saw that. Why didn't I do anything? Because you're already in love. You're already too involved. You can't at that point, right? So it's the same thing. You can't get so emotionally involved in a business transaction or be so tempted by the end result that you don't look at the details.
Well, I think inherently under that is a scarcity that if I slow down, this feeling is going to go away, and then it's just going to turn to dust. Which, of course, is essentially, again, like a scarcity famine mindset, which only makes the reality of when it does crumble in the end even more painful, because now you've invested all this time and energy and whatever other resources into building essentially a very heavy house of cards that, boom, the second you truly are like, wow, it's compromised the values too much and it collapses on you, that's a hard burden to bear.
Yeah, it's the thing, like, oh, he's interested or she's interested. I'm talking about like business. He or she is interested. I don't want to ask too many questions, or I don't want to seem too whatever, because they might get turned off and I might lose this deal and whatever. For me, if you don't value yourself enough, and this goes with everything, because I believe relationships, whether they're a personal relationship or a business relationship, if you don't set the expectations, your boundaries from the beginning, if you don't value your own expectations, and why would they, right? So if you don't say from the beginning, look, this is what I expect from me, this is what I expect from you, these are my values, these are my deal breakers, and then they don't know that. First of all, how should they know how to be or whatever, right? And if it doesn't communicate with them, then you'd rather not have that relationship. It's okay if it ends. Kind of sucks because you're like, you were hoping for it, but you know what? Better now than later, when you've invested time, money, energy, your heart, I don't know, whatever it is, and then you get burnt. That hurts so much more. But I don't force things anymore. I used to force things. I used to be like, oh, but I want it, but I want it, and I'd like force it, and then it wouldn't work out. I don't force it anymore. Doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Next.
I mean, that just comes from being in it. It's wisdom of the ages of like, I've been through it.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you know? Well, that's part of the why not, I guess. It's like, why not? Well,
Why not?
this also becomes the reasons why not. You know which parts to do.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the why not is like, why not ask the question so you can save yourself the pain and the problems on the back end. Oh, that was insightful. That was really insightful.
This is who I am. Love me or leave me. This is what it is.
Yeah. Well, let's do this. You said the magic words.
What?
You know yourself better. Before we kind of go too far more into not too far, before we go even deeper into your story, share with the audience, because you know yourself better than I.
Yes.
Who are you?
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
That is such a it's a lot. I'm a lot. I am. I'm a lot. There's like so many layers to who I am and who I've been through. And I would say it's because I've been through so much in my life and I've evolved and I'm not the same person I was. I literally have transformed into a completely different person. And that's because I always seek growth. So who am I? I don't know, can I tell my story? Like, because that
Yeah.
really is, who I am today versus who I was maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Mm.
Uh, First of all, I began really young in my 20s to start invest in real estate. So I became a real estate investor, but I loved psychology. So I went back to school while raising kids and stuff like that. Got my psychology degree, continued doing my business stuff, launched a few businesses. I like flipping. So flipping real estate, flipping businesses. Love psychology, love the mind, studied the mind, decided to open up I bought first an inn, converted it into a retreat center for addictions. So I basically took all my business knowledge, my psychology knowledge, my real estate knowledge, and made it into this one thing that I said I could utilize all of my expertise in all of this and do this, right? So I converted it into a retreat center for addictions and launched it. As soon as I launched it, I got very ill. um, I got very, very ill, got very sick. Didn't know how sick I was until a few months later. And yeah, I got diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. I had to shut down my business, still had the building. Had to shut down the business and had to deal with my cancer. And in between surgeries, because I had this big building, I decided to launch a new business while going through my treatments, hired a team all in bed. I was, I was all in bed. Yeah. So the business I have today was launched on my lap, on my lap, like 10 plus years ago. And yeah, throughout that whole experience, I got divorced during my treatment as well. The fastest divorce you can ever possibly imagine. It was very quick. And yeah, lost shut down that business. It was devastating for me too. And I had to basically strip myself of everything. I didn't strip myself. Cancer did that for me. Um, but what happened was I went into a very deep isolation because I got very ill at one point. It was actually extremely dangerous for me. And during that isolation, I manifested stuff. I through visualization, meditation, I really just eliminated all noise and focused on what my purpose is in this world. And I said, what am I leaving behind? If I should die tomorrow, who am I? What did I do? And I realized at that point that I've wasted a lot of time. I was 40 years old, turning 41. And I'm like, what have I done? What have I done here? What's my daughter gonna remember besides me being her mom? Like, what have I left for her? And that experience completely transformed me, impacted me in ways that were so deep that I came out of that isolation a very changed person with a strategy and a plan as to how I want to see my life. And it was based with faith and purpose. That was the basis of it. So since then, I've lived a very purposeful life, trying to help people transform and impact them in any way that I can. And through that, it led me to becoming an author, speaking. I have a TED Talk April 29th of this year. Um, and it's just a promise that I made to myself and to everyone around me that I would make this life count, whatever it is. I might have a day left. I might have another 50 years. I don't know. But whatever I have left, it'll be a purposeful, impact driven life. So that's me. Sorry, long answer to, that's why I said there's a lot of layers, and it's all because of my experience that I've had throughout. I'm 50 years old throughout the 50 years of my life. So
Wow. I love asking that question that way every time. The who am I? Because of the responses I get.
Mm,
They're always a little bit different. And I
mm,
love it. You go, I'm a lot. I'm not just one thing. And what an evolution over time.
yeah.
I appreciated the story about the isolation. Um, I don't think enough. I mean, you said that cancer essentially put you in that place because you had to, I'm assuming, protect yourself from like any pathogens and stuff like that. Because
Right.
however the illness was or your treatment was going on, being very vulnerable. Um, there's a lot of beauty that comes from isolation, as you were talking about that. I think so many people are afraid of sitting with themselves
Mm,
voluntarily.
yeah. Because a lot of stuff comes up. And if you're not ready to deal with that, it could break you. It could. You need a lot of support, a lot of, but I had nothing left. How much more can I break? I had, everything was gone, or I knew was going to be gone soon because of how I felt my life needed to be. So I had nothing to lose anymore. I literally, when I got diagnosed, I was like the fittest in my life. To be honest with you, the week before I got a diagnosis, because I had just done like all this body stuff, like they were kinesthetics, whatever they were doing, right? And they're like, you are incredibly healthy, except you have cancer. Like there was nothing wrong with my body. And there's a whole story behind that. How it how cancer came about, and it's an incredible story of manifestation, good and bad. um
Please share. I'd love to hear that.
yeah, so I asked for God to take my life away one very, very dark night. 2 days later I started getting symptoms.
Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't, obviously I that conversation came to my head when I got the symptoms, and I'm like, oh God, like, what, you listen to me now? Right? It was a bad night. But they did. And soon after, there was a diagnosis. And yeah. And but that was very powerful to know that, because in my head, whether people want to understand that as factual or not doesn't matter. In my head, I believe that, well, I asked for it, I gave it to myself. That means I could take it away. So it was a very powerful mindset to have going into this. Very, very powerful mindset to have. Made me very strong mentally. And that's why I knew through my experiences, all the tools I used them, whether it was modern medicine, natural medicine, and all of the psychological mind, the power that you could give the mind with certain tools. I used them all. And it was a huge difference in my life, and through that illness and how I got through it. I had blood clots. I had kidney stones during a time where my blood cells were almost at zero, literally. It does not make sense how I survived without an infection. But I was determined, and certain things happened to me during that time, that were that I know impacted my wellness and my illness. So it's the mind is a lot more powerful than we realize. I've spoken to quantum physicists. I've spoken because certain experiences happened to me, and if you dive deeply enough into the conscious, like you go into an altered state. You're and this is not me saying it. This is experts telling me this, because I had to explain to them the things that I went through, and they're like, you perfectly described. Going into the quantum field, which not everybody could do that. I did. And you can what happens when you go that deep is there's like a reprogrammation, and I basically, by doing that and by repeating in my mind, I'll be okay, I'm gonna be okay, I'm gonna be, like, I'm healthy, I'm, whatever. I was like constantly convincing, but to the point of believing it. I'm fine. This is like a little cold that's gonna go by. That's how I was looking. It's like a little cold. getting like whipped from every possible angle. But I was like, it's cold, it's gonna pass. We're gonna be fine. It's temporary. It's temporary. It's gonna pass just like a cold. And anyway, so yeah, you reprogram your cells by giving them new direction, and now they turn into healers versus not. And there's actual research on that, where, believe it or not, breast cancer patients did visualization. And this research only came up recently because of my research for my TED Talk coming up. And it was the exact thing that I was doing. Well, I don't know if the visualization was the same, but it was basically having your immune system, visualizing your immune system fighting off the cancer cells. And physically, they had more T cells and killer cells versus the ones that did not do the visualization. So I'm like, look at that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a strong connection to spirituality, which was not always there. That was cultivated over time. So you sharing that side of you, like the belief side, for those who don't grapple with that, like where I go with it initially is, well, are we all in agreement that the placebo effect is a real thing?
Right.
And if nothing else from that alone, the fact that because your mind, because you believed something, a medication or a treatment, whatever, could be or could not be effective. Like when everybody else who's actually taking something, where you may be getting a sugar pill or whatever, the fact that exists,
yeah,
essentially opens the door to how powerful the stuff you're talking about is. Can you visualize? Can you tap into this deeper sense of belief? And belief it's heavy. It's a real thing.
Yeah, everybody believes in that in one way or another. When you go to a doctor, oftentimes, unfortunately, women are misdiagnosed for, oh, you have anxiety, or you need antidepressants because you're having all these symptoms. It has nothing to do. There's nothing wrong with you. So obviously there is a whole thing around that, right? And then you do have, like you said, there's the placebo effect. So these are actual, medical doctors, in the medical field, where they do use this. There's a reason for it, because the mind is powerful enough to make you feel like you're sick. Sometimes it is the mind that makes you feel sick. You could even convince yourself of something that's not true, right? Convince yourself. You could have 10 people telling you it's like this. No, it's gray. I see gray. No, but it's black. No, it's white. I see that. And it's incredible to see that over the years, how people are and perspectives and all of that. And it really just creates this journey that would be very different than if their perspective was different or the belief system was different. There's a law of attraction. Some people use it in a bad way. I find it's so popular these days that some people are really using it to monetize from from people's dreams, like trying to, like, oh, you can make all the money in the world, you can, and then people are attracted to that and they're like, oh yeah, you did it. Meanwhile, they didn't, like they just, attract these people in that way. But there is a law of attraction in many ways. If you're always looking at stuff negatively or, in a different way than someone who's optimistic, you are going to attract that crowd. You are going to attract those behaviors to lead you to more negative experiences versus someone who isn't looking at things that way. And it's not because you're necessarily attracting it because you're attracting it because of your behavior, though, your perspective in life. You're looking at things very differently than another person who might be actually attracting good luck to them, or because they're surrounded by maybe like-minded people, opportunities. They see opportunity versus challenge. That's a big one. So if you look at something, you're like, oh, that's going to be so difficult to get. Guess what? You're not going to last very long when the challenge arrives, versus someone who looks at it as an opportunity and say, I could do it. I could do it. I could do it. I'm going to try. I'm going to try. Worse, I fail, right? So what's going to happen to these two people? One's going to try, might fail, but it might also work. The other person's not even going to try. They're just going to stop. So that leads to a different journey than this person.
Well, it speaks to the optimist will actually put themselves in positions to succeed, where the other won't even get out of bed to take a shot. And of course, so you're going to get more of the sameness that you had by staying in bed today. While the other person is, so long as they maintain this optimistic vantage point, you'll keep putting yourself in the places, and you do it enough times and you keep looking for the positives, you're literally just skewing your life. Not to mention, I've yet to meet an optimist who's not very pleasant to be around. It's like, oh man, I can see how we can turn, like, it just shades any moment a little sunnier, a little more nice.
And and it's not that they probably have failed more than the other person, like a lot more, because they keep trying and they keep getting hit. They probably cry for 2 days, right? I do. Like, that's didn't work again, but then, wipe myself and like, get up again. Okay, let's try again. Let's try a different strategy. That's the difference between those two people, where the other person is so scared of failing, or so, I don't know, whatever it may be, whatever the reason is, that they won't even try. So they just stay in that. It's and we're all made up of different people. This is not, we're all, this world is made up of different people, and it's fine. That's how it is. That's just how it is. But if you stay in victim mode, you will be a victim. That's your, I never saw myself, like, when I had cancer, I other than my close family, nobody knew, because I didn't like the reaction people were having. Like, they were reacting like, oh my God, you're gonna die. They wouldn't say that, but like, I would see it in their face. They would be so devastated. And it's a normal reaction. I hated it, because it's like, no, 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 no. I got this. Don't worry about me. I got this. So I didn't want to tell people. I told them after, when I was done. I told them, yeah, I had cancer, And for me, it was the way I kept my power over this sickness that I was going through. Because if I, at the beginning, when I first told people, obviously, like my mother or whatever, like their reaction, it was harder for me. And I said, I can't do this. This is too hard. I can't deal with I need to be strong here, and I'm going to be fine. I'm not dying. I'm not dying. Don't worry about it. And it helped me. So I couldn't be the victim then. I actually went to a support group once later in the, and only because I felt like they might have like wellness activities and stuff, but they assess you when you go in. And it's a very well-known program. Does so much good for so many people. I went in there and I actually started helping the person that was assessing me. And she was like, what's your anxiety scale? What's your depression scale? And which is, and I was like at like 2 out of 10, like 10 being the most. Two. But by the time I left there, I was like, I felt like there was this big cancer sticker on my forehead saying I have cancer. I'm a cancer survivor, like I'm not survivor, I'm a cancer victim, and I didn't feel good about it. I was like, no, I'm not labeling myself with this. I'm not cancer, I'm just going through this. And it was very difficult for me. I left there and I said, why did I go there? I felt like it brought me down instead of helping me. So, it makes a big difference how you want to deal with things in life. And, we're talking about cancer, but this is anything in life, like you have to protect your mind, especially when you're setting goals in life, whether it's in business, personal, relation, whatever it is. What I learned throughout this experience is if you are as focused as I was during those 2 weeks of isolation, you could do anything. You're limitless. You are limitless. To keep away the distractions, stay focused on the prize. What is it that you need to do? And do what you need to do to stay focused on that. And that's it. Don't let anybody distract you. Protect your mind, like with your life. Because I had no choice. It was life or death for me. And I saw the difference it made in me. It was incredible. It was life-changing, literally. So if we could take what I learned through that and practice it, through life, this is why I'm in the retreat space, because you do get isolated, right? You're isolated from your life, right? You leave, okay? You go somewhere and there's a facilitator like you, whatever the goal is, and you're there to reach that goal. And that's why when I have done retreats, and this is what I train other people to do, is you have them there for 3, 4, 7 days. You could probably transform their lives within the first 48 hours, which is something you probably wouldn't be able to do long term, or it would take a very long time because there's so much noise. There's too many distractions. They're still in their life. You need to be isolated to fully focus on your mind, your body, your soul, all of that, to be able to reach your goal. That's where I learned that. That's where I realized that you need that type of isolation in order to really exponentially get to the goal, like quicker. And yeah, so that was my biggest lesson, is realizing how powerful the mind is.
My dog is looking at me. It's like, Daddy, I want to listen to the conversation too. The that makes so much more sense about the retreat center, your retreat work.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a powerful shift to the your ability to go from, like, I went into my own individual sassy boy. You went into your own internal mechanism, connected, and now you're helping people house a space for the same thing. It's so weird that people don't understand, by like taking time away to be with yourself, it, as you said, exponentially amplifies your progress in the direction of where you want to go with your life. Because when you cut out all the noise, the answers become very clear. Wow.
Very, very clear.
Tyson, Daddy is doing something right now. You need to come over here and be a gentleman. Wow. This is so interesting because in the news right now, you follow Aaron Rodgers, or where he just did he did a darkness retreat where he was in he literally went into a room that was pitch black for 4 days, no like light, no stuff, no media, nothing. Well, it also, with that experience, from what I gather, it there's an endogenous DMT release within your brain as well. So you're also getting this physiological trip within yourself, and you have stuff, you get a lot of clarity. But I think it settles in. You mentioned 48 hours. I think it's somewhere around 48 hours that that mechanism falls into place. But I mean, you're literally just there alone with your thoughts in darkness and just being there. So there was a lot of talk around that. I watched he's also friends with Aubrey Marcus. Are you familiar with him?
That's crazy. You know what? That is incredible mind power to be able to do it for 4 days in the dark.
Well, naturally, I saw that and I was like, I need to do that too. That was my first reaction. I watched the
what a challenge.
Yeah. There's if you know who Aubrey Marcus is, he's big in the personal development health space as well. He has a YouTube documentary that I watched a day or so afterwards. I think it's called Into the Darkness. I could be wrong, but worth watching. I watched that because he's friends with Aaron Rodgers as well, and he welcomed on his podcast and the whole bit. I was watching that interaction, but then I went and watched his documentary, and it's all about, I mean, he just going in and sitting with himself, and did the same thing. I think he was out in some place in like Germany or wherever it was, but what a unique experience to say, I'm going to fast from all the things and be with myself, be with my thoughts, be with Tyson. I just, I'm deeply fascinated by these ideas. Not for nothing, like Naked Sunday was basically sit with yourself for a day by yourself. Don't do it, like do nothing, naked, sit with your thoughts, come to terms with yourself. Who are you? What are you doing here in this life? What is the purpose of this life? And you're going to come back to, it's like what you make of it. But I love how you took that from one internal retreat to making it part of your mission to help house the space or find ways for people to house a space for a more intense immersive experience within themselves. That's what I really hear within that. That's so once I heard that, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Now I get it. Now I get where the retreat phenomenon came from.
Yeah. That's if you do it right too, right? Because there's retreats and there's retreats. Okay. So if you do it right, yes. Oftentimes what happens is even the retreat leaders are too busy, not actually practicing it that way. You have to do it right in order for it to work. And if you do it, it'll work. It'll work. You will actually, the development will happen so quickly. I just think of the people that I've seen in front of me change because something happened, something finally clicked, and their whole physicality is completely different in that instance. It's incredible to experience and see that happening in someone.
Well, you brought something up. I'm curious. I'm assuming you've witnessed a lot of people run retreats at this point. What tends to be the big differentiator between those who, quote unquote, do it right and are able to help facilitate that type of internal mechanism versus those where it's not as they didn't really maybe set the space for that type of thing to happen. What do you see the primary changes there?
So I can't qualify the program because I don't know each person's program, right? So let's just take that out of the equation, okay? Because their program does make a difference too, right? But let's take that out of the equation. When they show up at a retreat, they should be completely, fully immersed in delivering their program, and that's all. All the other logistics, everything else from who the chef is, where's Donna, where's my papers, whatever it is, should not be part of the retreat for them. There should be somebody else handling all the other stuff. They should completely be immersed for their clients, on behalf of their clients. If not, it's a disservice to them because they're not fully, because you also break the energy. Okay. It's not only about, it is a lot about the energy too, right? So let's say you're too busy thinking of something else. You're not in there, but you're expecting your client to be part of this program, fully immersed. How can they be fully immersed into your program, into your teaching, into whatever meditation, whatever you're doing, when you're not even there? And whether you think they know it or not, they know it. Whether they know it like they could actually see it or they could feel it, the energy breaks. Another thing is, some people might disagree with me, but vetting your retreat is very important because, and it's not because, well, oh, but what if that person needs it? Or what if, that's not my point here. The point is, if somebody is energetically not at the same level as the other people, then they're going to actually reduce that transformation. That energy is going to get broken. So it's all about protecting the energy and that momentum that's happening, because beyond just me showing up, beyond the facilitator just showing up or one client or whatever, you have that whole space. All the entire group creates this energy that just, grows and grows and grows. If there's one person that breaks it, it breaks it for everybody. So it's important to vet your clients that are coming because they might not be ready for that. Get them ready for the next one. Don't abandon them. But they might not be ready for that retreat at that moment. And it's important to know that. And it's important to recognize that as a facilitator. So vetting to me is necessary.
The way I just imagine that, so you're familiar with ayahuasca?
Yes.
Okay, so I have done it a couple times, especially the first time. This, to me, one of the big revelations is always like, this is a very powerful experience. There's a lot of things that might happen here. There's a lot of things going on. If you're not prepared for this, and you talk about energy, yep, like this could go haywire in a heartbeat.
Yep.
And the facilitator needs to be sharp. And I've always thought about like the retreat in many ways to me is not, it's just a point. It's a point in the process. What's the buildup, and then what's the integration afterwards? Because so many people are looking at just the retreat as it's almost like the new magic pill.
Yeah.
I'm gonna dissociate from all my problems for a little bit, feel really good, and then it should just like not the case. And if people are looking for that magic pill kind of thing, and I would say like that's part of the vetting that you're discussing. Like,
Yeah.
are you getting people here that are just looking to numb out from their life, or to tap into who they are? Two
Mhm.
very different ways about how they approach that. So, I mean, for my experience, they call it the dieta, which is basically you're going on a lifestyle diet. You're going to remove certain foods and things like that.
I like the name.
Yeah, it's great. And the the beautiful thing there, like between my first one, not that I did it poorly for my first one, but my second experience, for sure, I was more prepared. I had a better understanding as well, but I prepared longer beforehand,
Mm.
and the experience was different. And I would even venture to say deeper, though less blast off into the universe, more intrinsic and calm and stable. The lead up, different. And like
Right.
as you talk about that vetting, that energy, wow, just I gotta imagine most people are like, well, I'm just trying to run a retreat to make a couple bucks. Like, well, if that's your only motivation,
Yeah.
you're gonna bring people in and perhaps just, I mean, maybe you'll work, but you're increasing those odds of this energy, this trust that your people are investing not just through their money, but like I'm gonna put myself in your space.
Yeah.
You wreck that once. That is word travels fast with that kind of stuff.
But you know what? Most people still have fun. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you're away with a group of people,
Yeah.
whatever, doing whatever. You're going to still have fun. I'm not, most retreats are fun.
Yeah.
But did they impact you in a long-term way? That's the difference. Like, I want people to go in as not just to have, like, oh, that was a great experience, I had fun. I want them to leave going, what the hell just happened today? I'm like not the same person. Wow, what was that? That's when you know you've got it right. And then you see them, months later, whatever, and they're still like they're a completely changed person. That's when you know you did it right. It's a big responsibility. It's a big responsibility. Anytime you're playing with people's emotions, minds, soul, whatever it is, it's not a game. I use the word play, but it's not a game. It's a big responsibility. And if you're not ready to take that on, don't. If you don't have the logistics taken care of, and if your program isn't going to serve your people, don't do it. Don't take on that responsibility. It's not right.
Yeah, I think that ethical responsibility. It was almost like the practitioner themselves is going on that little diet beforehand. Are you putting all the things in space so you could be fully present, which is the irony? Like you're asking them to be present, but you're not going to be fully present. That's the hypocrisy behind that. As you said, it was so telling. Wow, wow. My mind's just a little bit blown from thinking about some of those things. That's
And there's, you've been in business long enough, you deal with entrepreneurs and all that. A lot of people, unfortunately, think they're doing it right because they just don't know of a different way, or they're not open to seeing the right way because they feel like they're doing it right. And I see it all the time, where they're like, no, we've got it, we're doing it right. We don't, because I also deal, like, in my business, I also deal with retreat centers where I take over the retreat planning, and they're hesitant to get my help. Yet when I start asking them questions, they're like, oh no, we don't do that. No, you don't have any legal contracts. No. Oh, uh, do you have any planners in place? No. Oh, okay. Do you have somewhere where you can measure how you've impacted your client? No. Okay. And these are people that have done it over and over and over and over and over and over again. But because maybe they're filling out their retreats, they're like, oh, we must be doing something right. We're filling out our retreats. Yeah, you are good. But what if you wanted to make a huge impact on the person and a difference in their life? more than what you're doing right now. Wouldn't you want that? Yes. Okay. And then all of a sudden you see them opening up to the idea of getting more help to make it even more impactful. So that often happens as well.
Yeah, there's something to be said. You don't know what you don't know. And
Yeah.
especially if it's quote unquote working for, like, we'll call it the bottom line. Like if you're filling them up and people seem to be happy. I like what you're talking about. It's almost like you're auditing them of like, well, what's the depth of like the experience? I liked what, like, the follow-up piece. Hey, what was your client's takeaway from this? What type of transformative experience did they have from it? A subtle thing like that can make all the difference, because especially, like, oh, that was the real thing we did great, we should probably do more of that. Like, that's a good idea. That's a good idea to know what you're doing well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So these little things make a difference in your life, in your business, and everything, and impacting people. And like I said, it was my purpose, to, like, because I saw how it changed my life, and I'm like, well, how can I take what happened to me and do it for others? And that was like first when I started, like I've always been planning retreats, different types. Then I started doing them for myself, like hosting them. And then I said, well, now I need to teach people how to do it. And that's where my program comes in, to help people do it, because it's important for me. And anybody, is when you know something, when you've got the secret code or whatever it is to share that with the world, or as many people as you can, because then you're multiplying that teaching to other people. So that's where I'm at now, by teaching other people, like, wait, did you think of this? Did you think of that? Let's tweak it, and try to see how much more we could get out of this person to get them to where they want to be. So it's important for people to just take the knowledge they have and just teach it as much as possible. Like, when you know something, I think it's your responsibility to just spread that knowledge to people as much as you can. And I want to clone myself in a sense, where that knowledge, not me, I don't need more of me, but I need, that knowledge that I have, to teach as many people as I can, because I feel like they can truly impact others, and that's how when I'm surrounded, like people like you, or people that know something that I just want to listen to you. I want to get what you know, because I want to challenge my perspective. I'm bored if I don't. No, honestly, I have to be growing, or I'm like, ugh. And then I start up another business.
I was gonna say before, you're like, you're battling cancer, going through divorce, starting business. I was like, when did you got the time for all that stuff? That also be a mom. So
I'm a busy girl. And you'd say, okay, well, like, how do you, everybody asks me, how do you do all that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just do. That's just my character. I think it comes from my parents, the way I was brought up. And I do a lot. And when I slow down, I literally become like a corpse. I just don't do anything. It's either full speed ahead, all in, or all out. Like, where's Catherine? I don't know. I haven't heard from her in 2 weeks.
She had to tap out, hit the reboot, hit the reset button. It's just like the internet a second ago. I had to hit the reset button. That's all.
No, I'm done. I'm at a beach somewhere, close everything off. I'm done. I'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll see.
Like the planned retreat within ourselves is so valuable for those types of things, like all in, all out, especially the entrepreneurial type of person, where it's like cloud of thoughts all the time and opportunities everywhere. That's
when you're launching something, whatever you're launching, you know how much work it takes, right? So you're like 150% and going. If you do not take a break after that launch to reboot and like process everything that just happened, you're gonna fry. You're gonna fry.
I come from a fitness background, obviously, but one of the great sayings that I always stick with, especially whether you're coaching health, I've coached relationship coach, businesses, any coach, any of those things in life essentially is not how hard you train, it's how well you recover.
Mm.
Using the fitness sense, like if you're not sleeping, doesn't matter how hard you crushed at the gym today, your muscles ain't gonna build back up. If you didn't eat properly, you didn't refuel the thing. Like you need to put the things back in so that the machine can be in harmony, can be in balance, can do the damn thing that you need to do, whether it's running a retreat, running a business, any hell, being present in a relationship as any role, whether you're a parent, kid, spouse, you got to make sure you're recharging that battery. Otherwise, you're just, as you said, you just one day you're done.
You're done. You're done. And like you said, when you're working out, you're breaking down muscle, right? I have a friend. Okay, might be an interesting story for you. That hadn't worked out in a while. Decided to work out with a friend of his who's like a CrossFit pro, and was like, "No, no, let's just do whatever you do." And he's like, "No, it's a lot. No, 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 let's just do whatever you do." And he did. He ended up in the hospital because, excuse me, he was peeing out brown. He broke down his muscles so much that he almost died doing so because it was just, he wasn't there. So, we got to take it easy. Do what you
For,
need to do, but process, right?
for anybody who does
Rebuild.
not, for anybody who does not know what that is, and let's just do a PSA disclaimer moment. It's a real
Right.
thing. It's called rhabdo. That is it came on the scene more prominently with the CrossFit. I owned a CrossFit and I was an affiliate for quite some time, and then I disaffiliated for a few different reasons, but irrelevant. The whole idea about that intense, it's the 0 to nothing. Whether it's like asking a child who's never taken a step in their life to go run a marathon, what do you think's going to happen? Like,
Mm.
or a somebody who's brand new to entrepreneurship being handed $100 million to manage, be like, you don't even, and like a whole team of 1,000 people, like what, you don't have the skill set or the breadth of experience underneath that to know how to bear the weight of that.
Yeah.
And your internal system isn't strong enough to recover from that. So it just
Mhm.
says goodbye.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Processing is very important. There, you need to have that downtime. Even during a retreat, a lot of people overbook what people are doing. So they're busy, busy doing this yoga, this, that, hiking, nah, nah, nah. And then it's like, when did they have time to process individually what just happened and to take your information and process it for themselves, like to personalize it? You need that time. Just like the muscle needs time to rest and recover, so does the brain. I don't know if you've ever been in, well, I'm sure you've been where you're doing something and it's so busy and you're in survival mode at that point, right? You're just doing to get things done and accomplish your task. ABC's done. Okay, 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 launch, let's say. And then when you stop, that's when you go back and say, well, I realized I didn't feel very good about this process. That person made me feel not so great. Like why did I have a bad vibe with this person? Then you think of like, it was something about me. Is there something in the processes that, something didn't feel, I mean, you don't feel that though when it's happening. You kind of feel it, but you ignore it. It's only when you're processing and you look back and you have that time and you've distanced yourself to know, okay, no, something didn't work. And this is what I feel didn't work. Same thing with, transformation. I'm teaching you. Kayla is there saying, yeah, do this, do that. We're going to do this. Blah, blah, blah. And then, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Sounds all good. And then you walk away and you're like, do I resonate with what he just said? Does that work for me? Oh, it does. I'm going to keep that check. It's very important.
Well, I there's two things that just came from that for me that I really appreciated. We'll start with the last thing. Especially with coaching, it's like you realize like just because you know the information as the practitioner does not mean your client does. They need time to digest. If it doesn't land, did you really teach anything? It's a classic,
Yeah.
tree falls in the
What
woods
do
and
you
there's
get?
like
You don't tell them like, what do you mean you don't get it? Are you kidding? Come on.
and that's hard. Like, and it's also a hard thing to communicate to a client, being like, yeah, we're going to talk about some stuff. Now go journal about it for a while. Go sit with it. That's which is the scary part. Like people don't, they're coming to you because they usually don't know how to sit with themselves.
Right.
Cool. I'm just going to tell you, go sit with yourself. You mean you're not going to tell me the answer? No, you have the answer. You need to let it out of yourself. Um, that was the first piece that came out for me. And then the second was what you're just talking about with retreats, people overbooking the damn thing. People
Mm,
think that more, and it's a great metaphor for life. More means better. Nah. As a personal experience, my favorite retreat was one kind of group thing. There was a little like gentle like movement in the morning, a little group chat, maybe some opportunity to kind of schmooze with like one-on-one a little bit at one point. That was it. It was mostly just a casual hang the
yeah.
entire time. Everybody there was a business owner. Yeah, 90% of people there were business owners. And like the relationships that could just naturally form, like that was worth it. It wasn't more.
Yeah.
It was less.
It was less.
It was less, but it gave the time for a meaningful conversation to happen between a couple. I mean, I'm still in touch, and it was a year and a half ago that retreat happened. I still remember it. I still stay connected with some of those people
Mm-hmm.
because we could actually have a meaningful conversation for a few minutes.
Right.
Granted, usually like as you talked about, you want the food and the location to be pretty solid. Like you want to make
Yeah.
sure your house is not going to
Always.
like
Oh my God.
collapse, and the food's got to be good. So you're like, oh man, share a good meal. Let's just hang. Let's be good. A full belly is always good.
Yeah.
But as you said, it wasn't overbooked. It was a little bit of quiet journaling time, and okay, we'll come back and we'll talk, and then like do what you want.
Yeah.
That was it. So that I appreciated that you were talking about that because I don't think enough people think about that, and I think a lot of um, consumers, they get worried about, well, what am I buying here, and they want to, and that's also speaking to like who you're trying to vet out. Do I want this laundry list of bullet points that are going to be on the agenda and all these different opportunities? I was like, when you're a successful person, you're like, I want less, and I just want to happen to know I'm going to be around people who are going to be similar in like,
Hmm.
want to chill out and have a cool conversation. So if I see like one or two bullet points on there, I'm like, that's it. Yeah, let's
Hmm.
go. And I just happen to like the person running the thing. Like, by and large, I'm going to go out on a limb and say everybody's kind of attracted to that same person's energy.
Right.
I want to be around that.
Yeah.
That it has been my experience, especially for successful entrepreneurs. They half the time they're using a business retreat, whatever you call it, as a write-off, a built-in excuse as like, oh, I gave myself permission to go away from my family. I kind of needed a vacation. I didn't need more shit to do. I didn't need to go
Yeah.
like bog myself under all this homework and projects. I needed to just like decompress and think about my own business for a little bit,
Yeah.
or my life, or my family, or
Yeah.
my health, or whatever. So I really, really valued what you were saying about stop over. Don't overbook your life either. Damn it! Like for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's a conference, when you're doing like one thing after the other, after the other, after the other. I call that a conference because people have come to me and they're like, well, what's the difference between a conference and a retreat? Like business people, right? I'm like, well, the difference between a conference and for me, I prefer the retreat space to actually learn more than a conference because I get exhausted at conferences. The brain can penetrate and process so much. After a while, it's just you're a zombie. You're not even processing anything anymore. You're done. You're done. Where I prefer, and to me, it's quality over quantity. That's how I always see it. I'm not saying that the entire conference is in quality, but they stick a lot of people in there just to fill out the agenda because they think they could charge more for that. Or, they'll get more people in because now there's more people involved, but it doesn't benefit the person, the user. It doesn't, the participant does not get any benefit in having 30 people talk in 2 days versus having maybe two, and just focusing on one goal. Better to have like 5 retreats in a year, with one goal each time than to have one conference where you're just getting bombarded with information that just is like a ping, it just bounces. It doesn't even go in, it just bounces off your head and goes out. It doesn't, you don't process that. So that's a big takeaway from doing that with your clients is less is better if you do it right. Again, It's always about doing it right
Mm.
and allowing them to and allowing those, I've hosted retreats, and this happens all the time where there's a certain goal, and then I'll see what you just said, where relationships are building, and there's like an incredible conversation where I know this is 100 times more important than whatever I have to say right now. So I go off my program and I just let them transform each other. Like I literally look at them and go, this is magic. I just watch.
I think you're gonna have to help me run a retreat at some point. I like pitching it from the lens of, yo, this is just gonna be a hang. Some stuff's gonna happen. And what you just said there, when you set the expectation that it's gonna be a loose structure, you as the practitioner can actually, I mean, I love what you're saying there. Like, I'm aware that me saying something right now is actually going to stop the process that person really needs.
Right.
I think that was a really beautiful perspective for anybody listening to understand. It's not about you.
No, it's about them.
It's about them. So shit, make it about them. If they're having that moment with another one of your clients who showed up, and that client maybe has the wisdom that person needs to hear, you're playing host. You're hosting a space. That's really hard. That's like, I think of that as like group coaching. Like, and coaching is really just holding space while people go through it.
Yeah.
That, wow.
You just got to throw that little like direction, meaning like you put that seed out there. That's what it is. If you're good at putting the seeds out there, people are good at picking up on the seed. And that seed actually grows, with community. And that's the point of the retreat, right? You're a community, and so having that seed, if you're good with people and understanding body language and knowing that they're about to open up, you know what you need to do. You either have to walk away or let somebody else say, it's really understanding the human being and what will trigger that transformation, and also what is needed. Like I have this code of transformation where, first you break. So you break the limitation, you break that, whatever it is, you break. And then, depending on what type of transformation you're trying to do, there's the healing process or the awareness, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So they have to go through that, and they got to just like process everything. And then you empower the person with the new knowledge, the new, whatever it is. So it's like a celebration of their life. And then they start doing and implementing and whatever with this new discovery. So, first you got to break, give them the time to process, and then use that knowledge.
There's just so much goodness in everything you've just shared so far. Like,
thank you.
I really hope people just take some time and sit with what you're talking about, because this incessant need to force the issue and fill, like, and not leave space. Yeah. I'm glad that somebody else is saying it, basically. I'm like really glad to be hearing this, because it's not a common conversation in what I see other people alluding to. And there's like an insecurity behind it. I got to have all this stuff because I don't feel like me holding space is valuable. I feel like that's what I hear when I think about that, whether it's in a coaching or a business or a retreat or whatever that framework is. There's a deep, I think there's like a deep intellectual humility behind saying, I'm going to leave space for only you and not for me. Because you also are like, I don't know what you're going to take from that in that space. You might get angry, you might get upset. I'm like, cool, we'll cut back and we'll talk about it again, like whatever. But yeah, that's so valuable for anybody who's listening right now. It's just, there's so much guilt and shame around making the time and space. And by the time you get it, like if you just already had a tough time to will yourself to sign up for a thing, and all of a sudden you were not given the space to process. Wow. Thank you for that perspective. It really powerful. Really powerful. I am taking a look at the time right now. Somebody's listening. They're like, You know what? I love what Catherine's talking about with these types of retreats things. And I've had this idea about running my own situation, or hell, they want to listen to your TED talk when that comes out and all those other things.
Right.
What would be the best way for somebody to connect with you?
So retreatboss.com is my website, or katherinekontos.com. Everything comes to me in the end. But they can email me directly if they want to at katherinekontos.com. I'll be happy to chat with them. LinkedIn is also another space also.
Mhm.
So any of those are good. I have podcasts. I have all these things. There's so many ways of listening to me, seeing if anything resonates. If there's something that they want to discuss, whether it's business or personal or transformation, I'm open to that conversation.
Love it.
Just
Well,
like, I heard the podcast with Caleb, and I really would love to talk to you. And I'll be like, yes, a friend of Caleb's, a friend of mine.
Hey, girl. Yeah. If anybody didn't get all that, don't worry. It will be in the show notes. So just go check that out. Catherine, you're freaking awesome. What parting words of wisdom, advice, just thoughts you'd like to leave our listeners with today before we sign off?
As long as you're true to yourself, your authentic you, nothing could go wrong. Just trust the journey, because you're being authentic to yourself. So whatever happens, good, bad, ugly, fantastic, just trust it. That's what it's meant to be. It's meant to be that way. It's meant to either block you from doing something or propelling you to doing something. Just be you, and respect yourself, love yourself, and the journey is exactly how it should be at that point.
Got me fired up, like ready to run through a brick wall now.
You're so funny.
True. I'm a pretty excitable guy. So I need like a team of people to calm me down more often than not. It's special. My wife, not least of which. I'm like, yeah. I used to think I was easy to be in a relationship with, and that is not true. I'm pretty high maintenance when it comes to like needing to hold space for this energy. I love that. You really did fire me up. Pretty cool. I think I got to double check on the date if I can make it out for that TED talk. So I'm wanted to.
I would love that. I would love that.
That'd be a lot of fun to see you and all our other friends from the crew.
Yeah.
Love your advice. Love everything you're saying. I'm so happy that building this friendship. Just so grateful for you, and I appreciate you sharing your story today. That's inspiring. If people have, like, a lot of people, I think, find a lot of excuses not to. They always find a way to say the reason. No, this is the reason why not. I'm not going to do things, and you're finding a way to like go for it. And I really appreciate that, because we need more inspiring type of leadership in this world like that. So thank you for just sharing your time and your energy like this.
Thank you. I'm humbled. Thank you so much. I really appreciated the entire process here today. I love talking to you. It's like talking to an old friend, and I really hope I get to see you in person.
Yeah,
It would be fantastic.
love it.
I look forward to that.
Well, the countdown is on, so I better get my act together and figure out my
Yes.
schedule so I
Buy
can
those
make it happen.
tickets.
Make those
Buy
tickets so
those
I can do the
tickets.
thing. Because I want to do my own TED talk. I talked to the what's the name who organized it all. He was talking that there might be a better one for me. I think like in the fall, so more like salon style. I don't know what the heck that means, but clearly I like to run my mouth, so I'll talk. I'll stand on the stage and just do it for a while. But no, you're awesome. Everybody who's listening,
and you're going to be great at it. You're going to be great at it.
Now that's
you're so charismatic. Honestly, no, you will. You will.
My fake
do it.
Is
do
not
it.
Covering up the blushing right now. You really got me in my feels. Yes, let's do it.
Do it.
Thank you, my dear. Everybody, go connect. Go connect with the retreat boss herself. Go get it done.
Yes.
And
happy to connect.
You're awesome. Everybody, go check out the show notes. Go connect with Catherine. And until next time, I remind you to love every body.